What's up, everybody? Welcome to the third part of my game collecting tips series. This one's going to be about repairing and cleaning your collection. Now you might be thinking, third part, where was part 1 and 2? Well, I did those almost a year ago now, and 2014 was pretty busy for me, so I didn't get around to doing the third one until now. The first one was about game hunting tips at garage sales, and the second one was protecting and insuring your collection. If you'd like to watch those, there's a playlist on my main channel page that has them, and then I will add this one to it as well. Before I get into the video, I want to mention that these are just my tips and tricks. They obviously are not the end-all be-all. Everyone is going to have their own way they do things. So I just want to make sure you know that this is just my opinions on, what I do in repairing and taking care of my collection. And if you enjoy the video, please give it a thumbs up and feel free to leave a comment down below with what you think and let me know some of your tips and tricks on how you repair and take care of your stuff. So, on with the video. First up, I'm going to talk about repairing labels on cartridge-based games. Now, a lot of these labels will be in a couple different parts. There's a clear outer layer, and then underneath that is the actual paper sticker. If there's issues with that outer layer where it's maybe starting to peel or it's torn in one part, I will use a scrapbooking glue stick to help glue it back down. Now, the reason why this works good for that outer layer is it's a very light glue. It's not harsh. It doesn't dry too quickly, so you have time to kind of mess with it. And it's strong enough to actually bond it to that paper sticker usually. Now, for that actual sticker underneath, this might not be strong enough. You might have to use like a super glue. Now, you want to be really careful when using super glues on a cartridge like this and on the label because there's a few different things that can happen. One, it can tend to make the sticker very crispy and hard, and it can also discolor it. If it's a light colored label, like white or yellow, it can actually make the label turn to like a brown or a dark yellowish brown. So you want to be really careful and just use a teeny little bit. And you also want to make sure it doesn't overflow under the edge of the label and get onto the cartridge as well, because it is incredibly hard to get off and it tends to be very noticeable. You might be asking, why even worry about trying to glue down a label? Well, for me, I like trying to have my games in close to like new condition as I can. And I've even opened brand new games, like a brand new Nintendo game, fresh out of the package, where the label had almost completely fallen off. The glue, the original glue, had lost its tackiness and no longer was sticking to the cart. So in cases like that, you sort of have to, just to keep and preserve the cartridge even at all. So it's going to be sort of on a case-by-case basis on if you feel like, should you take the risk on gluing down that little corner? Do you want to make it look, a little bit better? Or do you want to risk, possibly even more, damage to a really expensive rare game? It's just going to be sort of your own opinion in that case. But like I said, for me, if there's a edge or a part of the label peeling up, I will normally at least take the attempt to glue it back down. Sticking with the subject of gluing things, a little joke for you, I'm going to talk about boxes for controllers, games, systems, whatever. Now with this box, it had a torn flap on this side and same thing over here. Now with a box, you're going to probably open it and close it at least a few times if you want to get the object out. If it has a torn side like that, unfortunately, the more you open and close it, the more damage you're probably going to cause to it. That's why I always try to do as much repair to boxes like this as I possibly can to prevent further damage. With a box, I always try to stick with the lightest glue possible that will still hold it together, like the scrapbooking glue. Unfortunately, you might have to use stronger glues depending on how thick the actual cardboard is, how torn it is. As a last resort, I would not try to recommend using tape, mainly because tape over years can dry out, can actually lose its stickiness to the cardboard and just fall off anyway. And it's a lot more noticeable if you have a big piece of tape on the box than glue. If you do have to tape it, obviously try taping it from the inside. Don't put the tape on the outside of the box. But again, this is talking about preserving the box and just trying to keep it from getting any worse just from handling. Even on the edges or on the flaps where the flaps can actually start to separate from each other, you can glue those back down and it's just going to keep it from accidentally, oh shit, I opened it and a little piece ripped off. It's all about just trying to preserve it. Now also, some game boxes like these, like the original long box PlayStation ones, they can have these like papery outer parts to them where these will just start peeling up themselves. Same thing. The light glue sticks, just the very simple basic glues, can help keep those down and keep them from peeling up, because the original glues will wear out over time. Now I'm going to show you how to remove writing from game boxes and carts. First, it's going to be boxes. As you can see with this fabulous copy of Hole-in-One Golf on the Super Nintendo, there's a smiley face drawn on the box. Oh no! Now, depending on what that was written with, if it was a pen or a marker or whatever, there are different techniques to getting it off. This was written with a Sharpie, so the easiest technique is using an Expo marker, and I tend to try to use lighter colored Expo markers, this being red, because what you're going to do is you're going to trace over the Sharpie and then wipe it away. Now, I'll go ahead and start doing that. The reason why I use lighter ones is in case if there's any of the marker left over on it, hopefully it won't show up as bad because it's a lighter color. So I've traced over the smiley face. I'm going to take just a paper towel, and I'll just show you with one wipe, most of the smiley face already comes off. You can see it's just sort of light there. Now, it might take a couple of applications of the Expo marker, but the idea is you should be able to get most of it off, 90-95%. Sometimes you can even get it completely off, like in the case of this NES Max controller, there was a price written up on the controller right here, and I got it completely gone. You can't even tell it was really there. And the material that the box is made out of, the different types of like cardboard, if it sort of has that shiny coat to it like this one does, it's going to be easier to get off on those shiny boxes than it is on like pure cardboard with like not much of a protector layer to it. If that was written with, say, a ballpoint pen or a permanent marker or something else, you're going to have to, like I said, use different techniques. One that I've used in the past is just a regular pink eraser on a pencil. Unfortunately, depending on how much the ink of the pen or whatever has soaked into the box, it can be pretty hard to get out. For me, I'd rather have the box to have sort of like a rubbed away whitish area to it than a big price written across or whatever. So you might cause a little bit of technically damage to the box using an eraser like this, but at the same time, then does it outweigh for you the fact of a big price written on it or something? It's just going to be your personal opinion. Now with carts, like in this case, an ice hockey copy that has some poop on it. Who would write poop on that? Not me, I definitely didn't do it, hell no. This, I use a magic eraser. A Mr. Clean magic eraser comes in a box like this, and this is what it looks like. This one's been a little used, so it's flattened and smushed a bit, but the idea is you get this a little damp, squeeze out the excess water, and then you just rub where the marker is, and literally that took, what, 3 or 4 seconds, and poop is completely gone. It's that easy, folks. That's all you have to do. This is not a paid publicity for Magic Eraser either. You can use some soapy water, give it a good scrubbing with your hands. There's different ways to get it off, but honestly, Magic Eraser pretty much removes it immediately. And then you have, like, if someone draws on the label of a cart, like that, you don't want to use Magic Eraser. You would want to use, like, the Expo or marker technique. But honestly, if someone draws titties on a Hulkster like that, why would you remove it? That's just kind of cool. What might come to mind for a lot of people when talking about cleaning games is cleaning the contacts on cartridge-based ones or wiping fingerprints and smudges off of the disc-based ones. First, we're going to talk about cartridges. For a lot of people back in the day, the only way to clean a cart was to blow in it. Some people say that obviously that can cause more damage in the long run because the spit from your mouth would get onto the contacts, and that's not good. Granted, even today, every once in a while, I am guilty of blowing into a cartridge if it's giving me problems and I don't have anything nearby to wipe off the contacts. If you do have to blow in it, just don't spit blow into it. You know, hold it at an angle and kind of like lightly blow into it, I guess. But the best method is using a Q-tip or a little cotton swab. I use a little bit of rubbing alcohol. You can dilute the rubbing alcohol with a little bit of water and rubbing it on the contacts, on the bottom and the top, just like that. Everyone that owns NES games probably already knows this technique, but you want to make sure you don't use too much rubbing alcohol and don't let it, sit there and end up maybe running down into the cartridge itself. Just a teeny little bit on it. Other techniques is if the cartridge or the contacts are very, very corroded or have a lot of issues to them, you can open up the cartridge, using a little screwdriver like this. Now this one I got from one of my local game stores. It has the correct bit into it to open up the NES, Super Nintendo, N64, Game Boy games. If you don't have one of these, there are other techniques you can use. Like before I got that, I was using cuticle trimmers like these. And for NES games, it's pretty much impossible to get these down in there. But for N64, Super Nintendo, the screws are a little closer to the surface of the actual cart, so it's kind of easy to just grip in there and twist. You got to be careful so you don't damage the cartridge itself. So if you're using something like this or a pair of tweezers, just be careful. It's best to just invest in one of these. They even sell them where you can just buy the end piece and attach it to your own screwdriver. You don't have to buy an entire one, but anywhere from a couple bucks to maybe $5 max is what you should really pay. So once you get the cart opened up, on the inside where the contacts are, some people sometimes use the eraser technique and rub it on the contacts. You want to be careful though and don't scratch the contacts with the metal part around the eraser. You can also use a little bit of soap and water. All of these techniques, just be careful and make sure you're not letting any liquids or anything get onto the board itself, and don't leave liquids sitting there. Make sure you wipe them off of the contacts. As for disc-based games, the thing that you want to avoid doing is causing scratches or damage to the disc just while trying to wipe off some fingerprints or dust. You do not want to use a rough abrasive material like your shirt or a rough cloth. Try to get either a scratch-resistant cloth. You can even get some like spray, cleaner spray that you can use with it. Or if you have to, use a very, very soft tissue or paper towel. Even paper towels and toilet paper and stuff can be rough and abrasive and can actually cause little minor scratches on it. So you have to be really careful. I tend to use the technique of hot breath on the disc and then like a very soft cloth. Removing stickers or sticky gross crap from games, boxes, or systems can actually be pretty easy most of the time and will make your item look a hell of a lot better once it's off of it. Depending on what the sticker is stuck to, what the material is, as always, there's different techniques to removing them. The number one technique that I have used over the many, many years of me collecting games has been my thumb. I've used my thumb to wipe off or slowly roll off a sticker from game boxes or carts or whatever, and that technique normally works best for things like, that you could easily damage, like a box, because putting any type of liquid onto it to remove it can actually soak into the box if you put too much, obviously. So it might take a little longer, but the safest way for me over the years has always been just taking my time and slowly rubbing it off with my thumb. You can use different types of things like Goo Gone, and that kind of stuff works really well if it's on cartridges. And also, like I mentioned earlier, the magic eraser can even help remove little bits of gross crap that's been like sort of left on there from maybe an old sticker or just some weird gross material that's been stuck on it for a million years. Now in the case of this Nintendo, it actually had a large sticker stuck on there, and obviously this is nice hard plastic. I'm not going to damage it by putting like water or anything on it, so I actually soaked the sticker a little bit first and then was able to rub it off my finger. It took me about 3 or 4 minutes. The hairdryer technique is also a very popular one, and for boxes, systems, whatever, if a label or sticker is really, really stuck on there and you're afraid of damaging, say, like the box by trying to peel it off at all, you can use a hairdryer, put it on, like hover it over a few inches away from the box, and I'll mention the reason why a few inches in a second. But you want to kind of go over the sticker for a few minutes or so, try peeling it up a little bit. The idea is you're going to heat up and loosen that sticky goo underneath the sticker and hopefully make it a little bit easier to remove. Keep the dryer, like I said, at least a few inches away from the box, because you can actually cause damage to the item, the box, whatever, the label on a game cart. It can even possibly melt it or even burn it. I don't have a hairdryer to represent, doing this technique, because Katie stuck it in one of her shoes when it was really wet one time and melted the end of the hairdryer to the inside of her shoe. So, thank you, Katie.
You're welcome.
This last subject might be a little scary and intimidating for some people, and that is opening up, cleaning, and repairing consoles, controllers, and games. Now, for myself, it took me many, many years to even build up the courage to do that, because I was always afraid that I was going to open it up, have no idea what's going on the inside of the item, and just end up screwing it up even more. But what I found over the years is that just like with anything, there are different levels. You wouldn't start off with a PS4 and trying to rebuild it. You'd start off simple with maybe like a controller that has some broken buttons or something. For me, I think the first thing that I ended up repairing was a controller. Ones for older consoles like NES, Super Nintendo, N64 have very few components inside. You're going to open it up and you're going to only be working with maybe 5 to 10 pieces. So you should be able to keep track of what you're working with. And say you have like 2 controllers. A really simple first project would be 2 controllers. They're both not working for different reasons. Maybe one is a chewed up cord. Maybe the other one, the A and B buttons are no longer working. You might be able to Frankenstein those 2 together to make one working controller, and hey, you've saved it. You've at least saved one item out of those 2. You're not going to want to start off, like I said, with something too complicated and get over your head. There are plenty of videos on YouTube and tutorials that will help walk you through things. For other controller repairs, just the difference between a 360 controller and a PS3 controller on the inside is pretty drastic. I've repaired many 360 controllers, from the thumbsticks to different button issues, and it's not that complicated. PS3, on the other hand, they're put together a lot more complicated inside, and a big part of that, I think, has to do with mainly the fact that they are rechargeable, like the rechargeable batteries built in there. A lot more elements inside of this. Now, when repairing something, sometimes people always think that means I have to like rebuild the circuit board inside that item. That's not necessarily always the case. In fact, most of the time, 90% of the time, it won't be. Sometimes the item might just need a good cleaning on the inside. Maybe there's some dirt, dust, whatever buildup underneath the buttons that is causing connectivity issues. On systems like a DS Lite, or actually like a DSi, I've done a lot of repairs on, where they have like the trigger buttons to take the camera or to take the pictures. Sometimes gunk and like residue and stuff will build up on those little triggers. You actually have to take the system apart, dip them in rubbing alcohol, just little contact pieces, and then put them back together, and it'll help make it work. It'll maybe take a couple times to do that, to soak them, but it's simple things like that that some people think, oh, this is broken, there's no way to repair it unless I completely replace it with a new piece. It might just need a good cleaning. And I want to mention that for myself, I try to only repair things if they're going into my collection usually, because I'd rather use that time to play a game or do something else. But I will repair items if I get them like in a big lot and I plan on selling or trading it, and there's like a couple broken controllers or a system. You know, I'm not going to just throw the items away. I want to try to save them and at least get them out into the hands of someone else. But it just goes to show you that even someone that's not tech savvy and doesn't like to constantly repair things has at least the minimal skills to take it apart. So even you can, if I can, basically. And like I mentioned before, there are different skill levels. If you want to start real simple and just stay simple, great. Or you can build your way up. And like I said, check out videos online and help build your repair skills yourself. Alright, that is it. I hope you enjoyed the video. Maybe you learned a thing or two. Please give it a thumbs up if you don't mind. And if you have any tips or tricks of your own, like I said before, let me know in the comments section down below. And don't forget, there were 2 other videos in this game collecting tips series that are on a playlist on my channel, so go check those out if you want. And thank you all for watching. I will see you all later. Peace!